So, very happy that Jamie has finally got a paradise flycatcher on the screen, but we did need to get you back here to show you exactly what's happening. I mean, look at how incredible this is. This is the second individual who initially started looking for a place to bury this bolus of dung. And Ariel, you were wondering, what on earth are their plans? Rolling balls of dung up and then transporting them away and then burying them. And what they're doing is they are providing their future offspring with a very safe larder of food to feed on. So what would have happened is that an egg would have been laid within this bolus of dung, and then now it's being buried. The adult will then move off. Some will actually stay and help nurse their young once they hatch, but the majority of them will leave this bolus of dung under the earth, and then when the egg hatches, the larva will be able to feed on the larder of dung and eventually break out of what will become a hard shell on the kind of external layer of this ball of dung, and then start life. So, as a dung beetle, I guess, as it metamorphosizes. So, really interesting stuff. Sadly, though, there are animals that seek out these balls of dung knowing that there's going to be a tasty grub inside, and animals like mongooses, honey badgers, porcupines will all dig out these little balls of dung and snack on the tasty grub within. And it wasn't too long ago on a bushwalk where we actually found an excavation where a mongoose had been digging, and we found the cracked open shell of one of these balls of dung. And I mean, we got an idea of their strength earlier as they were rolling the balls of dung away, but I mean, it's like, I mean, you cannot comprehend how strong it is. I mean, it's just moving the soil as if it's nothing major, but let's remember, it's a small little bug, or beetle rather. And I wonder how much longer it's going to take to completely bury the ball. Oh, that looks like it was a great move. It just fell into a shaft there almost. This dung beetle's doing some deep depth mining. And what will be awesome is if we stay until that dung beetle actually leaves and continues to roll another ball and then bury that one as well. I'm not too sure where the other one's disappeared to. I'm kind of looking around and can't see it. What we can maybe do, I can see Andrew's very thirsty. Oh, have you found it, Andrew? Oh, you're too good. I don't know if that's the same one or if that's a different one. Interesting. Now, I try to backtrack and work out what dung they're actually rolling up, and I think it could be impala dung, very fresh impala dung, not necessarily the buffalo that we were following. So, hard to say. Now, because Andrew's been working so hard, I'm going to take the camera away from him for a second and let him just quench his thirst. Andrew, how's it been this morning? Good?
Super awesome, super nice.
Always nice to be on foot, and Andrew's a great cameraman, not only on the drone, which is what he usually does, but also on other things. There we go, looking after the cameraman, and it looks like this ball of dung has slowly disappeared, and I'm hoping we're going to see a very sandy dung beetle come out, shake its head, and then move off. A job well done. Hello to Sandblaster, good to hear from you again. And you've done some really interesting research on dung beetles, and well done on doing this. And I haven't actually heard this before. You say that dung beetles are the only other animals on Earth, other than humans, that will actually use the Milky Way to navigate. That is incredible if it is in fact true. Now, often with theories of animals like one like this that seem a little bit far-fetched, you do need to read into more and perhaps find other research. And the reason why I would query this, and I'm not saying it's not true, but the reason why I would query it is that during a sunny day like this, well, partly sunny, partly cloudy, so there's no Milky Way and it's the daytime, they can still navigate, and they do that by going up onto the ball of dung and often doing a 360 to get their bearings. So I'm not sure if it's something to do with kind of the magnetic poles and the magnetic pull of the earth that helps them to get directions. Who knows, maybe it's just using the sun. But whether it uses the Milky Way and the sun, or both, or none of them, it's certainly a very clever animal, and it's going to be worth trying to do a little bit more research on that. But thank you so much for providing us with that interesting fact, Sandblaster. Still not much to see here for now. You can just see the earth moving ever so slightly as it tries to bury the ball of dung. Well, Dia and Lucy, the two of you are interested to know how long does it take for the larvae of a dung beetle to grow up into an adult. And I'm guessing, but I'm quite confident. I'll show him Andrew's antenna's just stuck on a tree here. There we go. I'm guessing that it's going to be throughout the winter months that it hatches and grows, and then it will metamorphosize fully, I'm hoping, I could be wrong, by the time the next summer arrives. And that's when the next set of dung beetle adults will emerge, and the same process will unfold. So a lot of the time with insects, not all of the time, a lot of the time it'll kind of be a seasonal thing where during the summer the adults all become active, do their mating, lay the eggs. That will either hatch early next summer and develop really quickly, or we've got another dung beetle that's just come onto the scene here. I wonder what you're doing. I hope you're not looking for poaching our current dung beetle's little spots. Anyway, we'll leave it to its own devices. So I'm not too sure on that, but like I say, I'm fairly certain that they could well metamorphosize and grow up to be adult dung beetles by summer next year, so in kind of November next year. But if any of you know more than me on this, please feel free to share. And that is one of the things I love about being on Safari Live, because there are so many hundreds of people joining in on the action. Somebody's bound to know the right answer, even if some of us right here who are supposed to don't. I'm not too sure how much longer we should wait here. The earth moving appears to have calmed down. Another interesting update through from X-Ranga is that these animals were introduced into Australia to help process cattle dung and recycle that into the ecosystem. So that's really interesting. I hope it's worked out well. Often very risky to take any animal from where it does belong to where it doesn't, because it can have majorly negative effects as an alien species. But if that's working for the Australians, I'm very happy that that stunt worked out. And thank you again for another wonderfully interesting fact. There's a little bit more earth movements. Are we going to see it emerge and come out? Maybe it's finished burying it. Come on! It'll be so awesome if we manage to see it not only roll the ball of dung past us, find an initial spot where it thought about burying it, thought to itself, no, I can do better than that, moved a meter or so away. It's definitely going to stick with this spot, but what's going to be interesting is whether we see it emerge, and it's looking promising. Come on, come out. Surely it's deep enough now. Now this is a good parent. I mean, they don't want to put it just below the surface, because if they do put it just below the surface, it's going to be easier for the predators to sniff it out. Whereas the deeper they go, the safer that little larva is going to be. Maybe it's tired, maybe it's having a breather. It's been working furiously at burying that ball of dung. Who knows how far it was that it rolled it for before it got here. Hello to Varietas, who would like to know if a rare nocturnal animal called the pangolin will ever eat these larvae of dung beetles, and I don't think so. They focus on termites mainly, the pangolin, so I don't think that they will actually dig these up and feed on them, but who knows, maybe they do. And again, if anyone knows the conclusive answer to that, please let me know. But pangolin are termite specialists, so I doubt it that they will actually feed on these. But you know what, what's always interesting is that certain animals will have, you know, regular behavior that they like to stick to, even us as humans. But in times of desperation, we and animals like a pangolin may do something a little bit different. So possibly. Shame, Andrew, are you okay there? Medium.
Medium.
Okay, it's really tricky what Andrew's doing. Like now, while he's hunched down permanently, I get to stand up, stretch my legs, you know, relax a bit, but he's been on his haunches permanently, holding the camera as steady as he possibly can. So I was just checking in that he wasn't burning and about to keel over. Okay, well, I'm not too sure how much longer to stay here in the hope that the dung beetle will emerge. Ah, thank you, Marcel, who's just provided us with a bit more information on how these dung beetles, or elytras, hard winged beetles, do find their way around, and a lot of it is magnetic. So not saying anything wrong with your information, Sandblast, is always wonderful, but like I say, I think we always need to double check these things, and sometimes I provide you with false information, and it's wonderful if I'm corrected. So we all learn jointly in this wonderful experience, so thank you for the magnetic updates. Now, we may spend a few more minutes here, but we are going to give Andrew a bit of a breather, and if the dung beetle doesn't emerge in the next minute or two, we will move off and see if we can't work out whether in Kahuma Pride are sleeping or eating buffalo or whatever they're doing. See you later.
That's such an awesome sighting of a dung beetle. It's not often that you get to see that. But we have some more exciting, really exciting news. So Roy from Arathusa picked up on male and female leopard tracks moving into Buyatela, so where we are now onto Djuma. And it looks as though they've popped out, they've crossed Ledwood and they've popped out, and they look like they're going somewhere towards the Mulwati drainage line. Now that is exciting. Who could it be? What are they up to? Are we going to get lucky this morning with mating leopards? Quite possibly. And what often happens with leopards when they are mating, because this is very much the sort of core range of Karula. Now, I'm not saying it couldn't be her, but it's unlikely, just by the fact that it's come from the south. She was on the northern section of Djuma. With Karula, of course, she carries a certain degree of unpredictability, but I don't think it's her. So the question is, which leopard is it? And what very often happens is with male leopards, when they are mating with a female, that female follows them outside of their normal territory and around to these sorts of areas. So I'm going to make my way to the top of Mumba Road. Craig is currently on Ledwood, and Brent is also making his way into the area as well to come and help us out. Especially since Rusty probably won't be able to do a nice river drive through the Mulwati drainage line. What I want to do is get to the top of this sort of crest close to the Mulwati, and we'll stop and have a listen, see if we can't hear anything. Those of you who are regular viewers will know that leopard mating is not a silent affair. There's a considerable amount of noise involved, lots of growling. The gentlest of acts. Once we do get up there, then we'll take the opportunity to just finish up with what I was saying about the paradise flycatcher and the fact that we were most likely looking at a female. What's interesting with those flycatchers is the males gain these long tail feathers during breeding season, and they usually maintain them for quite a while into our rainy season, so the season that we're in now. That being said, with the weather being the way that it has been, and with the drought that we have had, I wouldn't be surprised if some of the males have already started to drop their breeding plumage. That long tail is such a disadvantage. Sorry, Teds, let me go forward a little bit. We'll see if we can get another clear view. No, don't go, don't go. Ah, you sneaky battalier. The joys of filming live wildlife, and especially live birds, because they don't always cooperate. But we have wonderful news about our paradise flycatcher. Apparently, it has added to Chris Rogue's list. Chris Rogue has been keeping a bird list, as have many of our regular viewers. So, well done to Chris Rogue, who is definitely one of the leaders of this particular bird list challenge. That has now boosted her up to 216 birds that she's recorded on these live drives. That's awesome. Really interesting news. And Marilyn, it was also a new bird for you, sitting on the early 100s. I just want to stop for one moment for a couple of reasons. I was going to go check, but I can't actually go into Milwaukee with the signal, so if you want to check around there, then you're more than welcome to.
Alright, no, rain's coming up more.
Okay, awesome. Alright, we'll see what we get. Cheers. Bye, guys. Sorry, just coordinating our search efforts. Now what I wanted to show you, and I'll try and set it up a little bit later for you, Julia. We actually took a video of those Woodlands kingfisher feathers and the way that they change the color that they are depending on the angle that you see them at. There we go. Rusty doesn't always like reverse so much. Since Craig's going that way, I don't think that there's much point in us covering exactly the same ground. So I'm going to head back along here. Maybe drive along Leadwood, see if we get lucky there. This U-turn is a bit tricky. We might have to do a 20-point turn here. And while I do this 20-point turn, I believe that the late impala lambs have started to show themselves.
Well, sadly, sometimes the timing just doesn't work out, but we did just have a glimpse of a tiny newborn impala, and we've spoken about how impala will do the initial rut, which is in January, February, March, April, May, which is in May, and if that rut doesn't work for some of the females, if they don't fall pregnant in that rut, there's a secondary rut about a couple of months later, and therefore kind of 2 months after the initial baby boom of impala, which is around the end of November. Now we're getting towards the end of January. 2 months later, baby impalas still being born. Now we're probably not going to see a lot of them. It's for the minority of female impala that did not fall pregnant in their initial ruts, but so awesome to see that we saw a baby newborn impala. It could have been born last night, and that's why we only saw the mother. She was running straight towards us and obviously very nervous in this wind, but possibly also nervous because this wind may have blown the scent of lion into her nostrils. So we're still on the search for this pride. We're on another road. We're just making double sure that the lion is somewhere in this triangle that we've checked so far. And let me show you exactly where we are and where we've checked quickly before sending you back to Jamie. I'm just going to grab a little stick quickly. So this is where we were. Now that blue bob is going to take us to boink to there now, which is where we are. So we've checked this road. Let's start here. We've checked all the way down this road, this road, this road. I can zoom in a bit. No lion tracks crossing. Now we're checking up here, back to where the tracks came in. Now if we don't find tracks crossing any of these roads, we know the lion is somewhere in this block. And then we continue searching. So that's where we're at so far, and we will be sure to keep you updated if we do get any further sign of them. Over to Jamie.
Here we go for Julia, who was asking about the feathers, since they may not ever make it back from Brent's pelican case. I'm trying to get it to play. Why can't I get it to play, Tevs?
Top button on your right.
Top button on my right. I am a technologically challenged individual, but have a look at this. Look at the color changes of those feathers.
Different colors, same feather, different color, different angle.
One more time. Swivel. You can see Scott was assisting me in that particular adventure. It doesn't capture it entirely clearly, particularly since we're facing into this morning light. But it does go, they go from green to blue, depending on which way, or teal, if I'm going to be exact about it. Teal to blue in that particular instance. But it's so fascinating the way that keratin works and the way that it plays out. But yes, you can hear, and that gave you a little bit of a behind the scenes as well into camp life. I know that Kirsty was asking about it. There was lots of chatter happening around the breakfast table that morning after the walk. Oh, sorry, it was Christy who was asking about the behind the scenes and do we chatter after we get back, having spent the entirety of the drive talking about things. And actually what I'd like to do a little bit later is to show you a video of a beetle that we recorded in slow motion, and the way that it moves is so much fun. That's what I've really enjoyed about my new advances into the world of technology, is being able to do things like little slow motion videos of beetles. And I've just learned so much about the way beetles walk, and the dung beetles that Scott was watching included. But I'll show you that a little bit later. Let's pull up on these leopards first before we get too distracted. And a warm welcome to one of our new viewers, Russ Boy. Oh, let me get higher up first. Let's get out of the stick. There we go. So Russ Boy, joining us for the first time on YouTube. You were wondering what country we're in. So we're in South Africa, and in fact we're in the northeastern corner of South Africa, one of the most incredible wildlife areas on the planet. We have our own beautiful, pristine portion of the wildlife area. We drive around on Djuma and Arathusa. That's in the Sabi Sands. You may or may not have heard of it, but you definitely, I would think, have heard of the Kruger National Park, and that's all connected to where we are now. Close to 4 million hectares. So 4 million soccer fields or football fields, depending on where you're from. And on that note, please let us know where you are from and if you're enjoying it, and ask us questions as well. We are more than happy to tell you things about this wonderful world that we inhabit. And don't forget that we are live, and obviously we are live because you sent through your question and we answered it. Which means that we can't script anything, we can't edit anything, we just bring you pure wildlife experience. And hopefully this morning, fingers crossed, mating leopards. I'm excited, I hope you're excited too. You can hear the wind howling. This weather has been so weird this morning. It really feels almost autumnish, which it shouldn't at this time of year. We haven't even made it into February yet. Boy is obviously a little bit more familiar with South African geography. You're wondering if we were near Pretoria. So Pretoria is about 400 kilometers, so 200 miles to the southwest of where we are at the moment. And it's very close to my hometown of Johannesburg, or my home city of Johannesburg. I wouldn't really call Johannesburg a town. So yes, you're in the right country, definitely, but we're not that close to Pretoria. We're a bit further to the north and to the east. Where are you from, Russ Boy? Please let us know. It'd be fascinating to hear. We love hearing where all of our viewers are from. Because it means that for us, our game drives and our safaris are reaching across the globe. And that, to me personally, is one of the most wonderful things about it, is because we know that we're able to bring an awareness and a love for these wild areas, or hopefully inspire a love for these wild areas. And not just for the viewers, but also for conservation as a whole, to raise awareness and to impress upon people how important it is that we respect and enjoy these magical protected places. Although we are in the midst, or in the grips, of what has been a particularly fierce drought, Roy, you are absolutely correct. There is water in certain areas, and he wanted to know about the fish that we get. Now, the person that we should really ask that question to is Brent, but I can give you a list of some of the more common fish species. So what we did notice, particularly in the last few months as the dam started to dry out, there are lots and lots and lots of catfish in this particular area. Now, catfish, or a barbel, as we call them in South Africa, some of them had grown to actually about this long. Big fish with protrusions on the end of their faces, and a very hardy survival strategy, capable of moving over land. So almost at that sort of beautiful. Tebs, you're a legend. Look at that. 1, 2, 3. Now that's exciting. 3 adults. We don't often get to see that. Hello, battaliers. You beautiful creatures. Now, isn't this an extraordinary sight? Now, we know that there's a mated pair that live around Leadwood and Mamba Road. They also have a juvenile with them. As to why there's another adult here, could be offspring of theirs. Apparently you did get to see battaliers mating at one point, and during their breeding season they will mate repeatedly. Apparently it's something in the region of a couple of times a day, and not necessarily purely for reproductive purposes, but also for bonding purposes, because of course these birds mate for life. And the nice thing about battaliers is they are one of the creatures that you can actually, one of the raptor species, that you can see the difference between male and female. And as I said that, male and female shot off in different directions. So for your knowledge, just before this one flies off, this is a male. Bye. As I said, the joys of live wildlife. Hold on one moment. I'm going to find you a picture so I can explain to new viewers what I mean, since our birds didn't stick around long enough for me to be able to show you. Oh, they are tricky sometimes. Okie dokie. So here we have our battalier species that we were looking at, a stunning bird of prey. This is the female here with an extra white bar on the bottom of her wings, and the male to the right of her without that white. And that's how we knew that the remaining one, that before it took off, was a male. Interesting to see though. And then of course as they fly, this is the female with extra white underneath the wings, and then the male with half white and half black on his underbelly. Incredibly striking pair of birds, and what we actually can do for you is we can actually show you the slow motion replay of them taking off and zooming off in opposite directions, and have a look at the way that they fly, and have a look and see if you can spot the differences in coloration in this clip. There you go, a perfect opportunity to really, first of all, to get to see a large raptor take off in slow motion. And as I said, I've been particularly enjoying playing with slow motion at the moment and just watching the way that the different animals move. But you can also see the one on the left taking off had more white on her underbelly, or on the undercarriage of her wings. And that was the female. She's also bigger than the male, as with all birds of prey. Now, usually when we see the 3 battaliers on this road, it's 2 adults and a juvenile. So I'm interested that there's another male that joined them. From what I know of battalier behavior, they are territorial. But maybe that tolerance is because that male is a young... Sorry guys, hold on a moment. Standing by.
Jerry, confirm that you on Leadwood.
That's affirmative.
So I've got the tracks on the northern
side of the drainage line. They're heading sort of east towards Drakensberg Junction. I don't know if you want to check down Drakensberg.
Copy that. I came along Drakensberg. I didn't pick up anything there, but I'll go back and double check. Brent is on the search for our leopards.
Back on my vehicle. Any changes?
So that update that came through from Brent was that it looks as though those leopards are actually moving east, not west towards the drainage line as we originally thought. Turn Brent down a little bit. So he's just asked me to check one of the junctions there, but what I think I'm going to do is go around and check the eastern boundary. Monkey Man, speaking of Mamba Road, you were wondering if there's a reason why we've seen so many Mambas recently, because of course Scott had that sighting yesterday with the black Mamba. My suggestion would be the drought and the fact that there's far less grass. Usually this grass would be at least knee height and much denser. My suggestion would be that is probably the reason why we're seeing more black mambas. I don't think there are more about necessarily, and I don't think they are more active for any particular reason. I think the drought has just made visibility much easier. What was fascinating, of course, about that particular morning, and that was with Tebs as well, was that morning we had a black mamba on Battalier Road and a Battalier on Mamba Road. So we had great fun that particular morning. Now the Battaliers have decided to be on Leadwood Road, which I've noticed before has a distinct lack of leadwoods, although I'm sure there's a nice big leadwood that it's been named after. Oh, I see these tracks, okay. This is interesting. Where have these leopards gone? Luckily we've got Brent on foot helping us out. That's probably where the Leadwood name came from. That big dead tree. Here we go, the Leadwood of Leadwood Road. And I know it's a dead Leadwood because of that incredible bark pattern. Beautiful old dead tree. And of course, a seriously protected species out here, even once it's dead, as this one is. This tree could easily be 1,000 years old, and I wonder what stories it could tell us and what sights it has seen. It's obviously survived a fire. It does have a bit of charring around it. And because it is so solid and so resistant to wood bearers, it's essentially an ecosystem all on its own. Awesome trees, definitely in my top 5 favorite trees. I've just seen where the leopard tracks are heading to. I'm just trying to determine my best approach, and while I do, Safari Dean is on. Rusty doesn't appreciate being in this area. So Safari Dean, do leopards get Alzheimer's? I don't know. Do any animals get Alzheimer's? I've definitely seen dogs with what I suspect would be Alzheimer's. I'm not sure. I'll put that question to the rest of the audience, to the rest of the viewers. Do you think that leopards get Alzheimer's? Personally, I wouldn't be surprised. And of course, the next question that raises is, do elephants get Alzheimer's? Because of all of the animals out here, they've probably got that depth and level of brain activity that could actually be associated with a loss that then could be described as Alzheimer's. But a really fascinating question. honestly don't know the answer to it, but I think it is a brilliant one. I think I'm going to go home and do some research into animal Alzheimer's. Not something I ever thought I'd say. Hello guys. Morning, how are you? Good, thanks.
Good.
Any updates from that side?
Quiet.
Quiet. Okay.
I hear that somewhere on my Dutch Ndela, I'm sure they found a Yingwe going north, but it's almost on a cut line.
Oh, it's going to go into Simabili.
Yes.
All right, sharp. Thank you. We've got trucks coming in here, so we'll see if we can't find them here. Cheers, guys. And thank you very much to Ross Boy for sending through his updates. He's watching in Russia. And we do actually have a Russian member of the Wild Earth crew. The genius Mr. Alex Voz, who assists us with all kinds of things. But thank you for that, Russ Boy. Much appreciated, that update. You'll notice I'm going fairly fast along this road. And that's for one of two reasons. One is to dodge the bumps, and the other is because there's been so much traffic up and down here that somebody would have picked up on those tracks already if they did pop out around here. I just want to get hold of Craig briefly and just re-coordinate the search. Craig for Jamie.
Standing by.
And while I do that, let's pop over to Scott to get an update from his side so that I can concentrate on finding you those leopards.
Well, I am hoping that Jamie and Brent, who's also moved into that area to help her, get some luck or sign of those leopards. They could well be mating. And imagine finishing off the sunrise safari with some mating leopards. And hopefully the Nkuhuma Pride snacking on a buffalo, which we're about to find, I'm hoping. They may have simply outfoxed us and crossed a road somewhere where we didn't see the tracks. These things can happen, and there are some portions of road that are rock solid at the moment. So I'm hoping that's not the case, and I'm hoping in this area where we're searching now, it's quite thick, so we're going to be moving slowly. The wind is all over the show. It's getting quite windy, but predominantly blowing in the same direction that we're moving in, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I don't mind if the Nkuhuma Pride smell us before we get to them. They know the smell of humans and usually aren't too perturbed by our presence. As long as they kind of know we're coming and almost expect our arrival, that may work out quite well. You may notice that there's a lot of flies buzzing around Andrew and myself. Thankfully they're not the biting flies, or they haven't started biting us yet, but if I just stand still for a moment, I mean, they are just everywhere now. They'll start landing on me. How are those calves?
Nice, Johnny.
Thanks, Andrew. So lots of flies going around, and that is one of the realities of the African summer. The insects are out in full force. Thankfully this year we haven't been plagued by as many as normal, because we are in a drought and they prefer more lush, moist environments. So I'm sure probably further north of us where they've got a lot more rain, and it's remarkable how over such short distances the amount of rain received in various areas varies greatly. I mean, even the other day when we had quite a good downpour, we don't know how much we got here, but next door got about 60 mils. Then another property in the Sabi Sands, probably only 10 miles away from where some properties got 60 to 70 mils, they only got 10 to 20 mils. And I mean, that's in a very, very small distance of just 10 miles. So rainfall varies hugely, even in just little localized areas. Watch out for the little acacia there. Hi there, Roy, and good to know you're watching. I don't know if I know you, Roy, and It'll be great to let us know where you're from. Always wonderful to know these things. And you're interested to know if we ever experience earthquakes here. And thankfully no, South Africa is a country that is very, very lucky with regards to natural disasters. We don't really experience cyclones, tornadoes, earthquakes, tsunamis. We're very lucky with regards to natural disasters. Very occasionally there may be a little bit of an earth tremor, which obviously sends everyone into a flat panic, but it is very mild and very occasional. So not a problem. One happened in Joburg not so long ago, where I think somebody's pen may have rattled off their desk, but it created pandemonium, like I say, and there was a butterfly. It's always a gamble going for, but I'm going to drop Andrew into the deep end. Have you got it there on the yellow flower? There we go. That looks like an African migrant. They've got that kind of minty white coloration, and look at it, they're doing exactly what we owe butterflies so much for: pollinating flowers. And if it wasn't for bees and butterflies and all these little insects, the pollinators, we would be living on a barren, dusty, horrible earth. So we need to remember how important they are in our ecosystem. Well done there, Andrew. Ah, Roy, you're in Texas. Thanks for letting us know so quickly, and thanks also for sending through that question. Oh, I'm waiting for the day when I trip and fall. That log nearly got me. Hello, Nancy in Memphis, Tennessee. And you're interested to know, how often do we broadcast these safaris live to Nat.Geo TV? And it all depends. It's an ever fluctuating agreement between us and them. And this year holds some promising prospects for some slightly different shows, slightly kind of different timings. But as soon as we know exactly what's going on, trust me, we will proudly let you know as soon as we get confirmation of what's what. But there's possibly talk of doing some weekly shows as well as a Big Cat Week later in the year. But yes, there's always a Big Cat Week. When it will be exactly, I'm not too sure, but it's usually November, December. But last year we did do a few little segments of just kind of two drives here and there, broadcasted to TV. But like I say, a lot's changing, and hopefully we're going to be doing a lot more stuff straight to TV. Obviously it's a great way, as a lot of you will know, to introduce people to Safari Live and then allow them to continue following us on the internet, because that's how most of you discover this wonderful experience. It's from those TV shows. So it's getting quite thick in here. Just going to continue to check the wind, even though I know what's going on. You can never be too sure. And also, what's good to do when you do get into a thick area like this, which yes, it is dangerous. There could be buffalo, there could be elephants, there could be danger here. The best thing you can do, as soon as you're feeling uneasy, is stop. And as soon as you stop, you're not going to approach any animal, put them under pressure. You're going to listen for a while. You're going to let them know that you're here. The wind is swirling, and if an animal is not hugely startled by your presence, just like us as humans, you're probably going to react in a more rational way. It also just allows you just to get down onto your haunches, try and get a lower angle under the bushes. And often there is this kind of like meter gap at the base of trees that is slightly more open than anything higher up, where you can see just a little bit further. Now the main thing I've locked target on is this ginormous elephant dung. Whew. I mean, that is a trophy specimen. You don't get elephant dung much bigger than that. Always nice to put a relation to head comparison. That is ginormous, and it would have been from a big bull. What's nice, and which is quite important, why I need to put this down properly the way I found it, is you can see a few small holes here and some soil that's stuck to it, and that's because the termites have already started processing this. Now we can't see any here, they're possibly inside there, or if we look down to the ground, you can also see more little holes here. So not too sure where they are at the moment, but it's a good example of how nothing goes to waste, and the termites play a massive role in making sure that this very partially digested elephant dung, I mean, it's actually quite embarrassing how bad an elephant's digestive system is, but everything happens for a reason. This is a thin twig that it chewed on, but I mean, it's basically gone in the way it will come out, the way it's gone in. I mean, look at this, you can see the grass that it's fed on here, a lot of grass, very poor diet. Look at all the little flies. Awesome. So the elephants don't have a good digestive system and rely on the termites to get the nutrients back into the nutrient cycle. Hello, and I'm not too sure whose question I'm answering, but I'm going to go ahead and answer it. You'll know who you are and I'll get reminded of your name. Oh, Aqua, there we go. The signal's just a little bit crackly out here. Aqua would like to know if I've ever traveled abroad out of Africa. And yes, I have done a little bit of traveling. I've spent, well, I was very young, so I don't really count this. When I was about 12, I went to Australia and New Zealand. My family were this close to moving to either one of those two countries, and we sold our house in preparation to move, but thankfully we didn't, because otherwise I probably wouldn't be here now, and I'm very happy here. So glad we didn't move over, but we did go on a holiday just to check out some possible homes, mainly in New Zealand, North and South Island. We traveled. I was most excited by and enthralled by the fact that there was a McDonald's there. We didn't have McDonald's in South Africa at that stage. So that's what I remember about the New Zealand Australia tour, which is why I don't count it, because I was too young to appreciate anything else really. And thereafter, after school, I did some traveling to the UK, where I worked on a gap year, as well as America. Spent some time in Fort Lauderdale scrubbing a yacht, and I've done a ski season in Aspen, which was an incredibly fun experience in a beautiful little town. And it's quite a popular thing for South Africans to do between the summer university holidays. You can go over, work a season in Aspen and pay for the whole thing just with the money you earn over there while you're working and playing. Of course, lots of playing was done. And then travel a little bit of America after that for about 2 weeks. LA, New York, Las Vegas, tourist boxes checked. And what else? Where else have I been? Spain, been to Spain. Norway, bit of Europe, traveled through Belgium, Amsterdam, Copenhagen, a little bit of time in Greece. So been around a little bit, but certainly, as a lot of you know, there's just so many wonderful places to explore on this planet. I've got a long list of things to do, even still places in South Africa that I've yet to get to. And hopefully what will happen is we will all jointly be able to go and explore some places together, mainly wilderness areas, I guess, with Safari Live as it develops. And that's why we need to keep telling more people to join more people about it, because the more people that know what's going on, the more places we can go together. And I would love to share those experiences with you. So I can't remember who it was, but somebody spoke about fossils earlier. This is not one, but it's a bone that's been cracked open. Not too sure what bone it is. It could be a kind of leg bone. There's a joint here that makes me feel it's kind of from a leg or a knee joint. You can also see where the bone marrow has been consumed. There's a little empty hollow down the center of this bone. Wouldn't be nice to know who exactly was chewing on this. I'm guessing a hyena. A bone this thick, I don't think a lion's going to tackle, and this is the hard work of the bone crushers of the African wilderness, the hyena. Okay, well, there's good news. I'm not sure what Jamie's found, but she has found something. Oh no, there comes a crackling through again. Oh no, false alarm. Nothing's been found. More than anything else, I'd rather actually take one big tick latched onto me ahead of the pepper ticks, but it's usually not an issue, and it's like 1 in 1,000 bites will lead to tick bite fever, some kind of a statistic like that. So it's not the biggest of concerns, it's more of a nuisance. Just heard a funny noise, but I feel it may have been the antenna pole going wee 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 on Andrew's backpack. So no, Jeff, not a major concern, but it is always useful to you know, check yourself thoroughly after being on a bushwalk, because they can leave nasty bites, even if they don't result in tick bite fever. You just want to try and avoid them latching onto you. So after your walks, often guides will kindly offer to do a full inspection of the ladies to see if they have any ticks on their body, which is one of the old kind of standard jokes that guides will play off at the end of a bushwalk. Ladies, you can come to my room and I'll do a full inspection of the ticks. Men, you can sort your own problems out, I guess. So that usually results in a couple of chuckles. Where are these lions? We're going to drop our guard and just be waltzing along thinking they're not here, and then all of a sudden they're going to let us know that they are right here. Hi there, Sandblaster. You'd like to know what essential items are in my backpack, and to be honest, nothing hugely critical. I mean, my ash bag lives in my backpack in a packet in case it rains, so that we always have nice fine dust or ash to let us know what the wind's doing. I've got a very small first aid kit that will help in case, you know, a few bandages and kind of basic trauma treatment stuff. And then just some water. It's got a bladder in it, so there's some water, a black bag that you can put over your body, toilet paper, always useful to carry on a bushwalk. You never know when you might need to blow your nose or blow something else. And yeah, nothing major. And the reason why, Sandblast, is that there's not huge reason we are not doing like a 4-day trek. We are in radio communication with help if we need it. That will literally be minutes away, and that's why it's just useful to carry the bare essentials in case of an accident or case of some trauma treatment. But most trauma treatment can be treated with a belt and just about anything that you can tie around a bleeding wound. Here's a very pretty hibiscus flower. Haven't seen any of those for quite a while. And if I just tilt it up towards Andrew, you'll notice it's got a beautiful maroon center, and well done for managing to bloom in these dry desert conditions, and thank you for providing us with some beautiful color, because there's not much color around or flowers around, a lot less than normal. Look at, I don't know if we're going to be able to get this ant doing a workout. And I mean, even though that's tiny, and I may have dropped Andrew in the deep end, I mean, look at that strength. I mean, that little grain of sand probably weighs just as much, if not more, than the little ant, but it's carrying it around as if it's got nothing in its mouth. And that's the other fascinating thing. These animals, like this ants, and like a leopard hoisting a kill up into a tree, oh, you stop fighting over that grain of sand. There's more than enough to go around. It's probably not a grain of sand, though. It's probably something more useful to them. It just looks like a grain of sand to me. But imagine us walking back from the supermarket with our groceries being held in our mouth, and I guess also being on all fours. That would be something else. We'd probably buy a lot less groceries and be in a lot better shape. It's the trolleys causing these problems for us, making it too easy to push far too much food out of those grocery stores. Maybe that's a good dieting plan. You can only take from the grocery store what you can carry home in your mouth. Now, I'm not too sure whether this tree was pushed over by an elephant. It's a knobthorn acacia, and there's a strong chance it was. I mean, look at all the earth that's been uprooted. Fascinating stuff. What's interesting is that knobthorn trees will usually push over in an entirety because they've got a adventitious root system which kind of spreads out, and therefore it's easier for the elephants to push over without the tree snapping, whereas a marula tree has got more of a taproot system which bores straight down, and therefore when elephants put pressure on it, the roots don't give way because they're not plentiful at the surface. They go straight down, the tree will just snap often, not all the time, but it's an interesting kind of thing. And what this means, I mean, obviously this is a big tree. It could have been growing for 15 to 20 years. It's not small, and of course it's sad that whatever pushed it over, be it a storm or an elephant, it's a necessity as it becomes a nursery for future growth. Now all these small little plants that you can see growing underneath this tree are protected by it. And yes, an elephant may come in a couple of years' time and push the tree out the way to access all this growth that's been protected by it. But it's a good example of how it provides, death provides life and future possibilities for other plants and also other animals. This will be a little micro habitat for animals to hide in. So we can't be too hard on the elephants. Their destruction is hugely necessary. Okay everyone, well, we found an impala horn. And this is awesome. It's not the biggest of impala horns, although I think it may have been from an actual adult, and this bottom half may have been chewed off, which looks like it's been the case. This would have been the left horn, I'm guessing, of the impala. You're just going to have to imagine what the right one looks like, but for now that's the best I can do. I probably also don't have it curled the right way. I'd have to get my little selfie cam out to position it probably. That looks like okay. Nikki thinks it's the right horn. No, Nikki, it's not the right horn. Maybe it is. No, it can't be the right horn. Look at that. Doesn't matter which way I turn it. Anyway, there you go. We'll leave that where we found it. Okay. Well, we're gonna leave you guys for a moment, so you're gonna head back to Jamie, and I'm hoping that these lions are gonna pop out somewhere at some stage.
While Scott hopes for lions, I hope for the leopards to pop out somewhere around here. Brent is still on the tracks of the female. I found the male's tracks popping out and crossing onto Torchwood. So these leopards have been leading us on a merry dance, because of course it's impossible for me to tell if that male looped in that way or came out that way. So it's all a little bit complicated trying to decide if he's still on the property or not. Brent only has the female's tracks, which suggests to me that those tracks that I found were crossing out from Djuma onto Torchwood. And now the question becomes, where is this lovely female? And which female is it? And if it is Karula, how on earth did she manage to do such a huge loop and then come back to the north? And is she on her way back maybe to investigate her Dacre carcass? Ducking and diving. Line network is full of possibilities, or full of hiding places for leopards to disappear into. I'm just looking down into the drainage mongoose crossing. I stopped for them because we've had some amazing stuff. Where did you go, little? Oh, he's just a little bit out. Let me go forward a bit. be the banded mongoose. We don't... no. Oh, well, it was... again. The signal was just a little bit patchy in this area, and unfortunately it's where our leopard tracks have been leading us. There's a couple of vultures circling above us, thermaling in the heat as the morning... Hello, hyena. Hello. Are you sleeping in the water? 1, 2, 3. You've been messing up my tracks this morning. Hello. What you up to? They've been walking, this is the group that's been walking all over the road and all over the tracks, and they've found their way into a mud wallow, as hyenas very often do. They found a perfect shady sleeping spot. So Lucy, we didn't get to the hyena den in the end this morning, but at least we found some hyenas to show you. Hello, curious little things. Surprise! Just goes to show you never know what you're going to find. And that brings me to a question from a new viewer. And he wanted to know what has been the most interesting thing that we have found on our journey, or that I have found on my journey. And Derp, you wanted to know? Well, it's a difficult one. Perhaps the most interesting thing changes every day. For example, the most interesting thing I found this morning has been these 3 little hyena poking their heads out at me from inside a nice mud wallow. Look how they're sniffing. But I think, funnily enough, and I did think about this for a while before I came to a conclusion, there are so many interesting things out here in the bush that it's almost impossible to choose the most interesting part of it. That being said, I would say if I had to choose, look how covered in mud that hyena is. Muddy water. They love it. It's a way of keeping cool. The big scar across her back. I'm hesitant to even try and identify the hyenas straight away, but I wonder whether this isn't June's mom. For those of you regular viewers, please take lots and lots of screenshots of these hyenas. Let's see if we can figure out who they are. Fortunately, she's decided to come wandering towards us. Hello, girl. I'm coming to say hi. Did you chase my leopard away this morning? Something's attracted her attention, and I don't think it's us. Hello, gorgeous, with your moth-eaten ears. Go, screenshot time. Yep, that's June's mom. I'm almost certain of that. With that scar across her back. Good to see her. It's been a while since I've last seen her. And I wonder where she's off to. She's investigating something. She's sniffing the air. Wandering off. I'm not going to try and follow her though. That patch of vegetation is so dense, and my signal isn't all that in it. Who these two are. Let's see if we can get it closer to them. What a perfect sparse spot they have chosen. Don't you think it looks idyllic? I mean, apart from the fact that it's got 2 hyenas in it. A nice mud wallow, facial. Nice view, nice scenery, but very private. I think this looks like the ideal spa spot. This is the sub-adult whose tracks I've been seeing all morning. And Roy, as that hyena walked past, Roy's watching in Texas, and he's remarking upon the muscles that these hyenas have inside their necks, and of course, all the better for crushing bones with, in this particular case. Incredibly powerful heads, and they're capable of dragging heavy kills up to 2 or 3 kilometers, so 1 to 1.5 miles. Hello. I love the head popping up over the sand. What you up to? You've been up to mischief all night, and now you've decided to come and enjoy a mud wallow. But yes, Roy, their necks are remarkable, and particularly pronounced in hyena with their skinny back quarters. There's such a sloping difference between their front half of their bodies and their back halves. Even more pronounced, in fact, in brown hyenas. You see it very clearly in their tracks. And just to go back one last bit, just to finish off with Derb's question about whether or what the most interesting thing I've ever discovered on my journey has been. It's a tough one because obviously I'm out here for the wildlife and the bush and the way that everything relates together and connects together, and my word, that's a very bright sun. But if I had to choose one thing that's probably been the most interesting thing to learn about, I'm not going to say the bush and I'm not going to say the animals. I'm actually going to say the people that I've encountered. Between guests, with viewers, with staff members that I've worked with, the lessons that I have learned in working in this kind of environment and on this particular career path and journey, I would say have been, a lot of it is to do with people. And very often, of course, we talk about how we love this and we're fascinated by the bush. But it's almost impossible for anyone to work out here, particularly in the industry that we work in, if you don't actually enjoy learning about people and working with different types of people. You need that fascination to keep you going, because it's actually a very people-oriented job. And Tina Berry, while we're watching these hyenas, we saw the one wander past. The other two are playing shy, and I think perhaps resentful of our intrusion on their private mud wallowing moment. But Tina was wondering whether or not they ever come close to the vehicles. And the answer is, look at that curiosity. That's so cute. They're looking up at, what are you looking up at? Just looking up at a swallow. Very difficult for Tibbs to catch, almost impossible to capture it, but he did. Well done, Tibbs, for giving it a go. Curiosity. Watching vultures as well. There we go, there's one of them. Well done, Tibbs. Watching the soaring vultures. And that's one of the reasons why I love hyenas. It's that curiosity. Look at that face. Intently watching. We've seen them react in the same way to the drone as well. They look at, before they get used to it, they kind of look up at it. We've actually had a couple of them come wandering towards it just to investigate. And speaking of curiosity and why I love spotted hyenas, yes, Tina, they do come right up to the vehicle. We've had several situations where they've done that. It's particularly common with the cubs, particularly at about 3 months old. 3-4 months old, they start to get really curious about what you are, especially given the amount of time that we spend at the den. Because we spend so much time at the den, they actually get so comfortable with us. Sorry, the sun is very bright. They get so comfortable with us that they actually get curious and they start to come up and investigate. I've had hyenas take my oil caps off my tires. I've had them chew my tires. I've had one try to chew my side mirror. And a couple, or quite a few of them, have had a go at my bumper. And of course, that's not something you want. I always chastise them ever so slightly just to get them to move away from the vehicle. You don't really want them learning that vehicles are something to be chewed or a toy. And we had, of course, that very memorable incident with a hyena fight where one of them tried to climb underneath our vehicle and the others were rocking it to try and get at the hyena they were attacking. It looks, I'm not sure which two these hyenas are. Impossible for me to tell at the moment, especially since that one is being so secretive down in her spa bath. they've had a very busy evening. Judging by the tracks, they probably walked somewhere in the region of close to, I would say, 20 kilometers last night, 30 kilometers, about 15 miles. They went from around the den, around to where Karula was, every single road around there, and then down in this direction. And Jeannie, you've said new hyena den. Wouldn't that be an interesting spot for them to pick? And of course, Jeannie is joking, but it is about time for our hyenas to move hyena den. Not that I want them to. It's one of the reasons why we want to spend as much time as possible in that area. And yes, absolutely, Diana. I mentioned their curiosity in watching the birds flying overhead. And in fact, I've also got the battaliers flying. Tev's doing an excellent job of looking for them. A bit tricky in this particular light as well. But Diana Hill, you were wondering if they will follow them because they know that it means a kill. Yep, absolutely they will. They're bright enough to know that. They're also bright enough to know when vultures and birds of prey are just thermaling, so just soaring around looking for food. And when they start to descend, that's when the hyenas know that there's something that they should go and investigate. So apart from having that incredible sense of smell that they're currently using to give us a good sniff, they've also got those problem-solving brains that allow them to make such deductions. How fascinating is that? And Lucy, Lucy, you who is watching in South Bend, you were saying that you think I'm right, that you think it was that that female that walked past was in fact June's mom. I think I'm right too. It does look like her, the moth-eaten sort of shape around the ears and then that big distinctive scar along her back. I'm fairly certain that it is. I'm always hesitant with hyenas. I don't claim to be an expert, and I certainly don't claim to be able to recognize most of them instantly unless I've got to know their particular individual marks. And of course, it's all part of time spent with them, getting to know the individuals and learning to recognize them instantly. And generally, I try and sort of focus my attention on the main mothers of the cubs and the high-ranking females within the group. And that being said, speaking about recognition, Liz, you were wondering if hyenas ever recognize individuals in vehicles. It's a difficult one. I think they're smart enough to be able to, but I don't think they really care enough to actually do it. I've never noticed any difference in the way that they behave with different people. It's all to do with how the people behave themselves. They will definitely recognize different vehicle sounds and different approaches to them. But I honestly wouldn't be able to tell you if they recognize individuals or not. Certainly, yes, if they spend extensive periods of time with them, then they would. Oh, this one's going to get up as well. You're going to come out for us. Show us your side. Yeah, wagging a tail full of mud. Now this clan has been particularly successful and in fact looked quite full-bellied to me. This hyena looks very familiar. I've seen her before. Interesting. Trying to work out where I know her from. Is it not that hyena that was involved in that fight that we witnessed a couple of weeks ago? I think it might be. I think that might be the female that was injured in that particular fight. Hard to tell, especially when she's covered in mud like this. Is she limping at all? No. But hyenas heal so rapidly. Last time she was accompanied by one of the sub-adults as well. And the injuries heal up so fast, but that ear does look, her right ear does look a little bit tattered. I think that's her. I think that's that female that was involved in the fight. You can let me know if you agree or disagree. I'm definitely open to suggestions, but I'm fairly certain that that's the hyena that looked at us, or that got involved in that fight and then so desperately looked at us as she walked past, she limped past afterwards. That little that would tie in if our theories about who that female is correct, and if she is the mother of the twins from last year, February. And for new viewers, my apologies. Hyena societies are incredibly intricate and complex, and their clan dynamics are not always easy to get a handle on. So please don't panic if you think I'm talking about hyenas and that you've never heard of, or you're not sure what I'm talking about. The most essential points is that we witnessed a fight a couple of weeks ago, and I suspect that the individual that we've been watching climb out of the mud wallow now, on the back left, and then the sub-adult that's accompanying her, I think that it's the same one. I think it's the same hyena. Fascinating. Awesome sight to see. I'm going to do one last ditch effort to see if this leopard is somewhere in the drainage line, and in the meantime, Scott has found another fascinating insect to show you.
You may have just heard Andrew saying what's cool about the backpack, and it certainly is cool, and the reason why Andrew is about to show you. Now, it doesn't appear like anything is there, but look closely. In amongst the leaflets, as Andrew zooms in, you're going to be amazed by the incredible camouflage of a little grasshopper. And you might just be able to start seeing it now. I mean, look at that. It's dead center in your screen. You can probably see that little antenna sticking up. That's probably the main giveaway. And absolutely awesome. Little grasshopper, very cleverly using the perfectly colored leaves of a bush willow tree to make it dissolve into its surroundings. Wonderful. Well, some interesting stuff over with the hyenas at that mud wallow with you and Jamie. So happy that you guys got to discuss the possibilities that maybe one of those hyenas was one that Jamie saw in a fight not so long ago. Oh, sorry, Andrew. Now, what some of you need to understand, I'm just going to show them quickly, Andrew, is the back of the backpack. There's this long antenna pole sticking up, and that's what gets caught on the little leaves and all the equipment the tech wizards have put together to make the picture get to you. Incredible stuff. But that antenna, obviously, sometimes both myself and Andrew forget about, and then you find the cameraman getting stuck on a bush. I think it may have happened again back there. Yeah. Well, guys, it's been so much fun being on a bushwalk again. It's been quite some time since I did one, and it's been so enjoyable having you guys along with us. So thank you for all the questions you've sent through and the good times we've shared together this morning. Apologies for not finding the lion, but who knows, maybe in the next couple of minutes we will. Hi there, Michael Fleetwood. And yes, I actually have seen a number of different video clips of leopard and hyena co-feeding on a kill, sharing a kill. Some of the time these videos, the hyena and leopard are literally feeding simultaneously, one on the one end of the carcass, the other on the other end. In other scenarios, and this happens a lot more often than we know, or think it does, is that the leopard will feed, it will move off, and the hyena will feed as much as it can, then the hyena will move off and the leopard will come back and feed a little bit more. So they will share carcasses, and the reason why they share carcasses is because there's no other way around it for the leopard, really. Ideally, in some cases, the leopard would like to obtain the whole carcass for itself, but it's not worth the violence. and us as humans can possibly learn something from the hyena and the leopard. It's not worth fighting about, and rather just share the food. Even though the leopard deserves it, it doesn't take that risk of violence, obtaining an injury, and will allow a hyena to feed. And then as soon as the hyena is eaten, it's full, the leopard can come back and eat as much of it as it can, or possibly take a piece off, take an organ off and go and hide it away where the hyena doesn't know about it, maybe up a tree. So it does happen, and interestingly enough, Mike, we did have that situation unfold. I think it was Djuma, or was it Quarantine? One of the two brothers that had a Inyala kill at Buffelshoek Dam. It was Quarantine, and thanks Nikki. It was a Quarantine male leopard who had an adult Inyala that's quite big, and he was quite young back then and didn't hoist it up into a tree. And interestingly enough, I mean, I'm sure somebody will be able to find the archive or the footage where we watched them feeding. I mean, the hyena was literally a few meters away from the leopard, and the leopard was just lying there on the ground while the hyena ate on the kill. And interestingly, when another hyena approached, the hyena, now Quarantine's lying behind me, so Quarantine is here, just to give you an exact idea of space. The hyena initially came in when Quarantine was feeding on that kill. Quarantine moved up and lay down 2 meters away from the hyena. The hyena started to feed, and another hyena approached. And as that hyena approached, the hyena that was feeding started dragging the carcass back away from the other hyena, straight towards where the leopard was. I mean, it was phenomenal. So it does happen, Michael. And like I said, sometimes we don't spend enough, well, we don't spend enough time out after dark understanding these relationships, interesting relationships between, nearly dropped my sock. Would have been in tears at the end of the walk if I'd have lost it. Let me just give it a jiggle of joy for finding it again. But yeah, I think a lot goes on under the cover of darkness that we actually don't know about and don't actually capture. So with the way technology is going, I'm sure that's going to change in the future, Mike. Again, it's sadly time to say goodbye and thank you. Well done, Andrew. Great work on camera. Well done to the girls in the final control room. It's been so much fun. Hopefully we will redeem ourselves and find the lion this afternoon, or that pair of leopard whose tracks came into Djuma. But we'll be sure to be trying our best and look forward to the next adventure with you. Back to Jamie.
The big cats have certainly run circles around us this morning, but hopefully we'll be able to follow up with them this afternoon and get some clarification as to what they've been up to. One last thing I wanted to just clarify, because Liz, I was thinking about the answer to your question about whether or not they get to know individual animals or individual people. And Liz, I said they don't care. That's not what I mean. I mean that for spotted hyenas, if everybody behaves in the same way, whilst they may recognize individuals, they will respond to you in exactly the same way. If, however, there are certain people that they associate negatively, then yes, I certainly believe that they would be able to tell the difference and to be able to avoid that particular person. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a wonderful morning. It's somewhat quiet, but we will find those leopards. They will make a reappearance, and hopefully, sorry about the noisy water pump, I'm trying to race past it so we can get away from its noise. But thank you all for your thank you all for your comments and your questions, as well as the wonderful conversation that we've all been sharing, as well as a big thank you to Tebs for his wonderful camera work and his wonderful company. I'm sure you'll all join me in saying a big thank you to him. And the lovely ladies in Final Control, Nikki and Kirsty, thank you for all of your help. And of course our technical crew that keeps things running on that particular respect, and all the joys of bringing you live safaris. Have a wonderful day wherever you are in the world, and we will catch up with you on the sunrise safari. Cheers for now.